Okay, so here we go with a video on an update of why I moved to Bristol. Because my most watched video ever, why I'm leaving Ireland, got like 15,000 views, but I don't usually make videos like that, just talking to the camera. And I will today because I didn't have time to make an Aphex video or any other videos because I'm super busy, because next week I'm going back to Ireland for 2 gigs, so I've been getting ready for that, and I've got Aphex event tomorrow night, online one, number 3, which you can go to, links under the thing. And what else? Yeah, making ads for my course. I'm gonna put some of them up today, and finishing module 2 of the music theory course, which is on scales, which I love. I love scales. Hear a Joshi scale, anyone? It's a super cool scale. Your third tone, your third tone. Pentatonic scales, diatonic scales, heptatonic scales. If you like your scales, you'll like my course. So you can make cool music with scales. I'll tell you one thing I found out. Like, the major pentatonic scale is not really one of my go-to scales, but it's kind of folksy and hokey and old sounding. But I was messing around with it, making a video for my course, and I realized it's very Aphexy actually to use the major pentatonic scale at times. You know, he uses the minor pentatonic too, and other scales, modes, and like it's kind of surprising because I wouldn't have thought major pentatonic. I wouldn't usually go for it, but it is actually very cool. Or not cool, it's very what's the word? Just nice and happy. Sometimes it's nice to make a little nice happy melody, and you can use that scale to do it. So back to the point of this video. I've moved to Bristol in October 2024, so that's nearly June. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April and May. It's getting on like 8 months now, 9 months at the end of June. And there's a lot of things that are better about living in Bristol. When I made that video about why I'm leaving Ireland, when I made that one, some people, well, I think most people were pretty positive. You know, they were saying like, oh, you'll love Bristol, Bristol's great. A few people were like, oh, Bristol's a dump, don't move, you know, why would you move there? I mean, you pick anywhere, people will say that, because different people have different opinions. But for a musician who makes the kind of music that I do, which is jazz and electronic music, Ireland's just not a great country to be in, to be perfectly honest. There's a small jazz scene, there's a small electronic scene, and even in those scenes, it's hard to break into them. Ireland's not really, I don't think Ireland's a place that's that concerned with equality, to be honest. I believe in being honest, but you know, you could do the best thing ever in Ireland, but if you weren't someone's cousin, you know, you probably won't get a gig. Like, it boils down to that, you know. I did have some people who really supported me. You know, shout out to Olin at All City and like Jay from Winthorpe. You know, like my friends, Johnny, Automatic Tasty, my friends in the jazz scene. There was Eamon Doyle from D1. And in the D1 days in the 90s, Rob Rowland and Donncha Costello were great. trouble is like that's the support those people is great, and I really appreciate it, but you know, it's not enough to live in a country for the support of a couple of people. Like, you know, it's really hard. I found it really hard to get gigs in Ireland, but not that I find it easy to get gigs in Bristol. So I just don't find it easy to get gigs, but I think that I will. Like, I actually have my own gig starting in June, a weekly jazz gig in Bristol. So, you know, it took a while. I was going to jam sessions, I was figuring things out, and I called a lot of places and I looked around a lot of places, and I kind of put a proposal together. This is what we can do. And one place went for it, a really nice place. It's not that far from where I live. So Thursday night, 7 to 9 p.m. starting, if you're in Bristol, from June 12th in the Crafty Cow. I'm going to be doing a weekly jazz gig and a jam session. Guests can come along and play. I'm really looking forward to that. Super excited about that. I mean, like, it's not impossible that would happen in Dublin, but yeah, it's partly me as well, you know, because I wasn't going out looking to make that kind of thing happen. Because when you go to a new place, and this is what I knew would happen, when you go to a new place, you are a new person. You are suddenly, you know, nobody knows you in this place, and you have to go out there and you have to meet people and go to jam sessions, and you have to be active. Not that I was all the time. December, I barely went out, and I got a bit depressed, to be honest, but I felt very isolated. You know, I was teaching online, so I was like working online, I was staying indoors, I was going out walking the dogs once a day, and that was it. And I maybe went out once, like the whole of December, to meet anyone. That's not good. That's not good for me. So January, February, I started going out more, meeting people, going out to gigs. Been going out to quite a lot of gigs. There's tons of great gigs on. That's one thing I love about Bristol. I'm going jam sessions, playing in jam sessions. So going to a new place makes you become kind of a new person, which I knew that Bristol would do that for me. So it's not just the place, it's also what you put into it. But it's hard to compare Dublin and Bristol. You know, I'm left, big reason was the housing crisis, really bad one in Ireland. It's absolutely horrendous. I don't want to live somewhere where your landlord saying you're gonna have to leave is like second only to a serious health problem. That's the way it is. If your landlord in Dublin says, you know, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to move out in a few months, that is incredible stress now, because it's impossible to find somewhere to live without paying over €2,000 a month, and you know, very hard to afford. So Bristol also has a housing problem, like most places seem to now, but it's still not as bad as Dublin. And you know, Bristol, it is bad. It's kind of, if you're renting, there's more options anyway, for sure. You know, if you're renting, there's just more available, even though there's not enough and rents are too high. But you know, like my rent here in Bristol is, you know, I wouldn't get anything like this in Dublin. No way, definitely not. And also, it's just a much better location. And where I live, I can cycle down to the city in 15 minutes, but we're kind of near a lot of parks, and it's like countryside. It's like best of both worlds, really. Bristol, best of both worlds. Countryside living, city living. I've got both. I'm happy. There's loads of things to do, musicians, record shops. You know, I'm much happier living in Bristol than I was living in Dublin for all those reasons. So everyone who said, you won't like Bristol, you are wrong. I absolutely do. And there's loads of things I love about it. One thing is, I mean, the music scene, the people involved in it, there's a lot of really good gigs put on by people who love music. And you know, Strange Brew is a great venue. There's a lot of other venues. And I love that there's a lot of people that I meet in Bristol that are here. They're not from here, but they came here from somewhere else, either other parts of England or other parts of the world, and they really liked it, so they stayed. So, and that is a lovely thing to have about a place where, you know, it's like that kind of, it reminds me of New York a bit. It's not like Bristol's not similar to New York, but I've been to New York a lot growing up and, you know, over the years, and you meet a lot of people who aren't from there originally. You know, it attracts people, it pulls people from all over the place. That's what it used to be like. You know, my cousin Maxie grew up in Florida, moved to New York, lived there so long, he sounds like a native New Yorker, you know, out of the way, asshole, when he's driving and everything like that. So like, New York turns people into New Yorkers, but yeah, Bristol, you can hear a lot of different accents and a lot of different people come from all over the place, and people are generally, I've found, very friendly here, very welcoming. I've been welcomed into the scene, and like I'll tell you one story. When I played a jam session with Johnny Bruce, he's probably the best trumpet player that I've ever seen. He plays jazz, he's like, he can play old school, old jazz, he can Clifford band, anything, like he's amazing. And you know, he drops into the jazz session at the Stag and Hounds. I played with him a couple times, and the first time I met him, I was chatting to him and he said when he arrived in Bristol, he's not from Bristol, I can't remember where he's from, but years ago, 20 years ago or something, he arrived and he went to a jam session which was run by an Australian guy, I can't remember his name, but, and that guy said to Johnny, "Oh, welcome home, man, welcome home." And Johnny always remembered that, and then he said to me, "Welcome home." And I was like, oh, that's nice, lovely. I do feel at home in Bristol. I'm going to live here for a long time. So that is my update, pretty positive about Bristol. The music scene, it's crazy amount of gigs on. Last weekend, case in point, Friday night, I wrote a really long email about it. If you're on my list, you'll get it. I'm going to stick it up on my website. I saw 6 acts in Strange Brew last Friday night. There was the early gig, there was the late gig. I had a ticket to the late gig, which was promoted by Jay Galligan, fellow Dubliner living in Bristol for the last like 14 years or something. He's a promoter now. He's nights called Probe at Strange Brew, and he put on Carrier and Lynne, which was the late gig. And then the earlier gig was Saskia and Ben Vince and Manisdron. So I'd only heard of Ben Vince, he's a sax player who plays loads of techno stuff, and he played on like a Joy Orbison record on Hessel Audio and stuff, so I knew his name. And I mean, that Saskia and also Ben Vince, those two warm-up sets earlier in the night, I enjoyed them. They didn't like totally blow me away, but the Manisdron set, which Dion, who's another Irish guy here in Bristol, he was like, this is going to be amazing. He really loves Manisdron, and he kind of encouraged me to go to that gig actually. And it was amazing. This Manisdron's a drummer who plays in, he used to play in a band called Goat, Japanese band, whom people rave about. And now he left that band, and now he does this solo electronic set, modular stuff and drums, and it's a killer set. It really was brilliant. It was like we were really dancing crazy for an hour while he was playing. So that was a brilliant end to the first part of the night, and then there's a break and we left and came back, and Jay and Robin played a warm-up set, and this was the back room. Strange Brew has 2 rooms, front room and the back room. It's a cool venue, it's really cool. And then in the back room is like a proper club. There was loads of dry ice and the kind of dim lighting, which I love for dancing. You just go into your own world. And Carrier played, it's like polyrhythmical kind of, I think it was around 155, 160 BPM, not 4/4 beats, but more the sound design of techno than drum and bass, but fast beats and great sound design, a lot of like filtering noises and swooshes and clanky percussion sounds, and great bass, of course, and dubbed out delays. That was a live set, that Carrier. So that was like an hour long. It was very interesting musically. It probably didn't have enough of like chords and melodies to really keep my attention. It was kind of bare and minimal and dark, but I really enjoyed it. I got like locked into it the first half especially, and I kind of, my attention wandered a bit. And after Carrier, then Lynne, I only caught the first few tunes of her set, which was really interesting. I kind of wish I stayed, but I was wrecked at that point and I went home. But I heard after from Jay and Dion that she absolutely killed it. So that was like a typical Friday night. Oh, it was more going on that night than many nights, but I've been to a lot of gigs and different kinds of gigs. There's loads of jazz, there's electronic music, you know, it's really good scene. I think I'm just repeating myself at this point, so I might wrap it up. Anything else to do with Bristol in my mind? No, I'm going to be playing at the Crafty Cow from the 12th of June on every week. I'm going to Ireland next week to play 2 gigs. Friday the 6th of June. This is a funny story, I'll end with this one. So I'm playing Friday the 6th of June in Lily's Sligo with a quartet, and Saturday 7th on the boat, 3 to 6 p.m. DJ set, kind of DJ / hybrid set. But on the this is the way gigs are. If you're not playing at a certain level of gig, then it just, like, musicians just get, a booking is not that serious, you know. It's just like a whatever gig. People will say, yeah, I'll do that, but then they won't. So anyway, the lineup changed several times. In fact, first the bass player who organized the gig for me, I'm very grateful, he pulled out first, and then the drummer pulled out, and then the sax player pulled out, and I had to replace them each time. So but now we got a really good bass player, Brian Cuesta, who's from New York, who lives in Sligo now, and the great drummer Ken Tonto, and instead of sax player we have another guitar, so 2 guitars, and the second guitarist is Phil Robson, who's a legendary guitar player, one of the best jazz guitarists in the UK, and lived in New York for 5 years. Like, he's got some incredible quotes from, you know, the best jazz guitarists in New York. They're all saying Vic Juris and Wayne Krantz. Those guys are all like big into Phil Robson's playing. So that's crazy that he lives near Sligo now. He lives in Roscommon. I asked him, he's like, yeah, totally up for doing the gig. So Friday night, where I'm playing with Phil Robson and drums and bass, we do a double guitar quartet. Mad. So it's going to be great. And then the next day on the boat, techno, acid. I've got my sets all acidy. Yay. Those of Drexia and Red Planet and all that good stuff. Living the dream. Jazz and electronic music on a boat in Sligo. And I'm coming back here, then I got my weekly jazz gig, then July 29th I've got an electronic gig in Bristol, Take 5 Cafe. Hopefully more stuff. There's also a great gig in June 28th is Jerome Hill, isn't it? And Tim is coming over to play that one. Thatboy Tim from Takeover Recordings. That would be great. That's Bernard's running that one. Pulse Wave at Basement 45. Anyway, I'm just really tired. I'm saying all this stuff. So thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Links underneath. Buy my courses. I would love that. And what else? Yeah, I think that's about it now. All right. ZOiD signing off. Goodbye. Thanks, bye.